Hello, welcome to Underlords Universe. This is a place where we gather my Brent. That's Brent. This is my brother, Brent. We gather along with some of our compatriots to discuss music and things that inspire us. We're part of a musical project, and along the way, we've met some people out there in the external YouTube universe. Tom Curless of Curlessmania, and you're out in Michigan, right?
I'm in Michigan. Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
this is Iowa here.
Like one country.
Yes. Yeah. And we stumbled across this idea. We like to discuss albums and music and this, basically just continue the conversations that been having since we were little kids about the albums and the bands that we love. And we stumbled across this idea of taking a list of albums that came out in a particular year that Brent and I could both talk about, and then inviting a guest and saying, okay, of this list, pick four, and then Brent would put the four into a kind of a bracket, and we kind of have like an album battle. So that's what we're in for tonight, folks. That is, if you have not already gone on to some other YouTube video, if I haven't lost your attention yet. But if you're a fan of albums from 1975, is that what we picked? 75, right?
Yep. Yep.
Then this could be the episode for you. And if you are stumbled across this for the first time, please hit like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. I'll put a link down below to the previous episode. I'll put a link to the Curless Mania if you haven't ever checked his stuff out. It's great. You just did a video with Davey Cretin on the Cars, which
Hmm.
I need to check out. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Now
Yeah.
we picked 1975 almost at random, I think. I mean, we just said, okay, 1975, let's pick, four albums.
Mhm.
And that was just to give a little bit of context. Brent, can you just give us a quick lowdown on just 1975 in general?
Yeah. So just some points about 1975 that I jotted down in my notes. President was Gerald Ford. Price of eggs 78 cents a dozen. Gallon of gas cost 57 cents a gallon.
Wow.
Popular TV shows: All in the Family, Laverne and Shirley, Maude, The Bionic Woman, Sanford and Son, The
Oh
Six
yeah.
Million Dollar Man,
Yes.
yeah, Happy Days, MASH, and of course Starsky and Hutch.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Movies: Tommy, Jaws,
Hmm.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh,
Also came out.
wow.
The price of a gallon of milk was $1.57, and the median family income was $13,720.
Wow.
So it's
Oh, my.
and as far as sports are concerned, the Steelers won the 1975 Super Bowl. The Flyers won the Stanley Cup. The Golden State Warriors won the NBA Finals, and the Cincinnati Reds won the World Series. So it's a little bit of an overview of 1975. And I think last time we kind of spent a little bit of time talking about where we were in 75 and what we were up to. So Tom, what were you up to when you were like a little whippersnapper back in 1975, right? What were you up
Yeah.
to?
Yeah. I wasn't up to much. I was pretty young. But I did have three older sisters who were much older. The closest to me is 8 years older. So, so I had much older sisters, and they did turn me on to music. That's kind of why I became such a music fan. I mean, I was a big music fan before I was even 10. So I was starting to get into music in the mid to late 70s already. Because I would ask, like, if I did something and I got like a reward or whatever, my reward would always be take me to the record store. I want to go buy an album. So yeah,
Great,
yeah,
great.
Yeah. I turned one in the fall of 75. So I was
You
pretty oblivious to everything.
I was in preschool, so I was pretty young too.
yeah.
So I'm not sure that I was listening to any of these records then, but we are listening to them now. And I went through and listened to them. I'm sure you guys did too. I kind of gave
Oh
a
yeah.
refresh.
Yep.
Hmm.
And that's another reason why doing these things is fun, is because, I don't dust these records off, often enough. But on this occasion, I sat down and went through all of them and had a really good time doing that and
Well,
jotted down notes, and here we go.
yeah, to me, I think one of the cool things about this is when I pull out an album from just any old album, I don't necessarily think about it in the context of other albums that came out that year. It's just, oh, I'm
Mhm.
listening to, Rush's Fly By Night, for example. I don't necessarily think of it in the context of all the other albums of 75. So, just to give a potential viewer the bigger list that we operated from, we had Fly By Night, Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti, Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare, Kiss's Dress to Kill, Fandango, ZZ Top, Uriah Heep's Return to Fantasy, Trying to Burn the Sun by Elf, which of course is where we get Ronnie James Dio. Black Sabbath Sabotage, which is one of my favorite Sabbath albums of all time. UFO's Force It, the first Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow album, Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, Scorpions In Trance, and for my money, the 70s Scorpions albums are just some of the best albums ever made. Rush's Caress of Steel, so you get a twofer from Rush in that.
Ew, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Deep Purple's "Come Taste the Band," which I think is an underrated Deep Purple record. The first,
Which features an Iowan and Tommy
oh,
Bolin
Tommy
from
Bolin,
Iowa.
Yes, yeah. Yep.
The first Trapeze album, with Glenn Hughes, and Chris Squire's solo album "Fish Out of Water," which I adore that record. I
Um,
got the super deluxe of it with the vinyl as well as the surround sound mix of it and everything. Just love that record.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so we threw
Mhm.
that list over to you, Tom, and you
Mhm.
picked four. And it's interesting because when I saw those four that you picked, I thought, oh, this is not where my brain would have gone necessarily, which is the thing that makes it interesting. Because if it's always a matter of, well, what would I do? Well, that's I mean,
yeah,
that's too self-indulgent. That's too boring. It's like, oh, so the four albums that we picked, or that I should say you picked,
yeah.
were Brent, were you going to say something, or Tom, were you?
No, no, yeah.
No. Nope.
Tom picked these
Okay.
records, and we can. Why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
let people know what records he picked, and then maybe he can kind of explain his thought process.
ZZ Top's Fandango, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, Rush's Fly By Night, and Physical Graffiti. So, yeah. Now, just in
Yeah.
general, did you pick those four just at random? Did you just close your eyes and just point, or was it no, those four have to be on for a certain, like, what was the process?
Well, it was difficult. I mean, it's funny. That's the one thing I love about doing these episodes with you guys is that list that you give me every time because we usually do that. We usually pick within a certain year, and it always blows my mind, especially in the 70s. The 70s was like a magical where like so much great music was coming out like on a regular basis, just insane. And when you think about how much of that music just came one year and you have that huge list and it's like, "Oh my God." I mean, and I will say that it was a tough decision because you just said it. Sabotage was like I almost picked Sabotage, very close. Come Taste the Band was another one I really wanted to pick, but you have to narrow it down to four. So,
Right.
Yeah,
um, so yeah, so I was like, I really wanted to pick. There were a couple others on that list. I was like, oh, I would love to talk about those too, but maybe we can do it some other time. So,
Well, and then the other thing is, if you look at huge list of everything that came out in 1975, there's a lot of other things that were not even on the list that we gave you. I mean, that initial list comes from the list that Brent and I could narrow down.
right, right,
So
yes,
somebody else would be
crazy.
like, well, what about this? What about that? And it's like,
And to
it,
your point,
yeah,
two Rush albums in that year.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
It's if
yeah.
I had to pick four to narrow this down with, it'd be like, well,
Mhm.
I can't just pick one of the Rush albums, so I have to put both the Rush albums, and then it's like, well, that's not
Yeah,
fair.
right.
So yeah, this kind of made me think, okay, physical graffiti in the context. I've never actually thought of physical graffiti in the context of, the year that also spawned Fandango by ZZ Top. I've never thought
Mhm.
of those albums as, in the same,
Yeah,
bucket. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
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 So
And
Brent,
then,
oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, really, really quick. I just want to say you said the trapeze record, And then he's also in Deep Purple. Like it's like, wasn't it Glenn Hughes in
Mhm.
both of those bands?
Yeah, yeah. And he just put out a new album this year.
Yeah,
Well,
that guy's
oh,
still going. He's still going strong.
He's
wait a minute, wait a minute. I should stand correct. We need to correct this here. Um, my note is incorrect. And my dog is running around. I'll just try to ignore her. The first Trapeze album is actually like, um,
well, that's like 60,
yeah,
68,
yeah,
69, 70,
Oh, it
something.
is? I didn't know it was
yes,
that early. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
This is actually, there's a self-titled Trapeze
Right,
album that came out after Glenn Hughes left the band.
correct.
Okay. 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 Got it.
So it's that Trapeze.
Okay.
Mel Gallagher does the vocals.
Right. Yeah.
He, he does this, but yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So Tom, I'm glad you caught that because yeah, I
He would
needed.
have been.
Yeah. And anybody else would have been like, wait a minute here. So it's good we caught that. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So Brent, okay, now you have a way of taking the making the bracket here. So this way,
Yeah, yeah.
Tom picked the four, but you're the one who says, okay, but it's these two albums against these two albums, and then we pick.
This is going to be interesting to see what the
Yeah.
pairings are.
Yeah, yeah. So what I did is I took the album that was released first that year, which was this came out in February of '75. So you have Fly By Night versus the album that came out of these four, the latest that year, and that's Pink Floyd. So we have Rush versus Pink Floyd, which
Oy.
leaves
Okay.
Physical Graffiti versus Fandango and our
Okay.
other brother.
That's this is dumb. Like
This is what we do.
I know.
So
It's like, okay, so Fly By Night versus Wish You Were Here. That's
yep.
That's a rough one.
Yeah. Nobody ever said this is easy.
Um,
That's why we do
no,
the
it's
hard.
not easy. It's
We
not
do the
easy.
hard part. So should we just take them in order? Do you want to just start off
yeah,
with talking about Fly By Night?
yeah,
Tom,
yeah.
you want
Go
to
ahead.
give us some thoughts on Fly By Night?
Yeah, yeah, no, let's start with that. I have to start with it took me a while to be I always liked Rush, but it took me a while to really love Rush. And I went to see them on the Hold Your Fire tour. So it was like 87. And that was kind of what got me. Like my friend was a huge Rush guy, and he was like, Tom, I can't believe you don't love Rush. Like, come on, like you need to see them live. So he like kind of dragged me to the show. And at that time, they were probably, a lot of people don't like Hold Your Fire very much.
Love
I
it. I
enjoy it. I
love
was gonna say, I
love
think it's
that
a good
record.
record.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great stuff on that album. And like Force 10 Live was really good, and there's a lot like Open Secrets, and what was the other one? There's a bunch of songs on that record
Prime
that I
Mover.
really like. Prime Mover, yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, I liked a lot of 80s Rush. But anyway, but what happened was as the years went by, I just got more and more into Rush. And then all of a sudden, Permanent Waves, and then I bought like Exit Stage Left, and I was like, oh, this is a great live record. And then it's like one of those things where it's like takes a while, but like all of a sudden it clicked, and I was like, okay, now I'm in. Like I am in with Rush. And so Fly By Night. And then what happened was it went in phases. So I like the 80s stuff. I like Power Windows and Hold Your Fire, blah, blah, blah. Then I went back to like Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures and all those. And then it kind of went back a little further and did like Hemispheres. It got a little more and more proggy, the Hemispheres and Caress of Steel, things like that. And then I always thought that like the early Rush was kind of like, early Rush isn't really that. It's kind of more like hard rock, Bad Company-esque. Like it's not really that great or whatever. And really, it was like I realized I picked up Fly By Night, and I'm like, oh my God, there's some great stuff on this too. Like holy moly. So Fly By Night is kind of like a later Rush album for me that as far as my personal history. But man, it's no less great. Like there's some great things on Fly By Night. So I had to put it in here, and like there's just, and when I was listening to it for this, I was like, oh yeah, like side one is just like phenomenal on Fly By Night. Like
Yeah.
there's just like it's just phenomenal. It's like so like boosh, 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 boosh. And it's just like oh my God, like one song after another. And then for me, it fades a little bit. That's just all I'm gonna say about it. Like it fades a little. I'm just gonna put that out there. Like for me, like Rivendell kind of takes me a little bit out. Like I like it, it's a beautiful song, but it goes on way too long. It's
Ugh.
like five minutes, and I'm like, dude, you could have made this like a 3 minute song.
Yeah, yeah,
That's I'm quibbling. I'm just totally quibbling. It's not
yeah.
like it's a bad song.
I've had
Well,
issues. I've got a lot of issues with Rivendell. But,
okay,
got problems
Okay,
with Rivendell.
Brent, there's your in point then.
go for it, Brett.
Yeah.
Jump in.
Okay, well, I got problems with Rivendell. I mean, it's my least favorite song on the record. But I will say that this is while this is not one of my all-time favorite Rush albums, I've it's grown on me over the years, and listening to it again for this what we're doing tonight, like Tom said, there's some great stuff on this record. Anthem, By and the Snow Dog, Making Memories. Those are probably my three favorite songs on the record.
Yeah.
It's interesting too because it's February of '75 this comes out, so it's not that far removed from the debut, but stylistically they're already shifting. That's really
Yes.
cool.
Yes, they're
That's
already
cool.
shifting. Exactly.
They're
They're
already
already
shifting
shifting.
it. It's
Yeah.
Neil is starting to write some lyrics, but you can tell with like By and the Snow Dog, they're getting into more of this. They're kind of experimenting with the prog stuff, which is super cool to hear
Yeah.
them doing stuff this early in their career. Because not a lot of Genesis was doing stuff like this. Oh, and by the way, full disclosure, Tom, a friend of mine in Chicago, got me The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway for Christmas this year. Just,
Nice.
you
Love
would be
it.
proud. I knew
Yes,
you'd be
I'm very
proud.
proud. Very happy to hear that.
So, but not a lot of bands were doing this kind of stuff in '75, right? Like By and the
Hmm.
Snow Dog.
Right. Right.
So it's
Exactly.
really cool that they're already kind of changing and morphing into what we would really, what a lot of us would kind of grab onto as being like quintessential Rush
Well, they're
later.
yeah, you can it's like they're experimenting with that mix of hard rock and the prog influences that they started to take on because I mean I think that they've been pretty open about the fact that John Rutsey, you know, as good of a drummer as he was and all that kind of stuff, um, he wasn't as into things like Yes and Genesis and King Crimson and stuff, but you know, Geddy and Alex were, and Geddy and Alex kind of wanted to figure out how to take their hard rock sound, but infuse it with a little bit of that progressive sensibility. And I think to me, the really cool thing about Fly By Night, as well as Caress of Steel, is I love listening to a band when you can hear that they're searching for their sound a little bit.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
that.
Yes.
That's just a
Yep.
really cool thing. And you know, a lot of people, you know, might be kind of put off by that. Oh, it's a little too primitive or this or that. But I really like it. And Brent, you mentioned Making Memories. Making Memories is one of my all-time favorite songs
Didn't
from the
know
Rush catalog. I think that is I like if I had to pick a favorite song from this record, it would be Making Memories. Not to slight By Tor or Anthem. And I also would say Beneath Between Behind is also
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
absolutely love that song to death.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I
uh,
do think I do think Rivendell's kind of a stinker, but it's different.
I'm
And it's kind of gutsy to put something like that because it doesn't really fit on the record stylistically. There's nothing else on the record like it, but I'm glad it's on the record,
I
even though I
just
don't particularly care for it. But it's different. It's like it's what Getty playing the guitar, right? And Getty
say
doing
Getty's doing the guitar on it, I
Oh,
think.
he is. Okay, I didn't know that. All right.
that's kind of cool. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
here for that. Um,
Yeah.
so there's stuff like Anthem, which is like that sounds like classic Rush, right? That's just like
Yes, it
that.
does. Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
they're searching for their sound and they probably haven't found it yet, but they're really getting there with this record.
Well,
So
you mentioned,
it's
you know, Neil coming in. I mean, can you think of a better song to introduce Neil with? I mean,
cool.
I
the
was just gonna say that.
between the
Yes.
snare, the
Yeah.
snare and the hi-hat work, between the snare and the
Yeah.
hi-hat on Anthem, it's just like, oh man.
This guy is just killing it, you
Yeah.
Yeah,
know?
and Tom, you're a drummer. I mean, I know you're more
Yes.
instrumentalist, but what is it about Neil's playing that a lot of people say, oh, he's the greatest drummer and he's fantastic. But what about his playing? What are some things or elements about his playing that you particularly like? Maybe on this record or just in general
I
as a
would
drummer?
just I would just say that his precision and his power. I mean, he's got like this powerful precision thing, like where it's like that he's doing all these like complicated things, but it doesn't sound like disjointed at all. Like that, like for example, Anthem, that and it's like it's just he's doing all these like offbeat things, but it sounds so smooth. It's like crazy, and he's doing triplets like it's nothing. I mean, it's just he's just so he's always, like you said, it's there immediately an anthem. You see, like, who is this drummer? Oh my God, he's killing it. You
Yeah,
know?
because it's not John Rutsey, and that's not to slight John Rutsey, but
No.
and Neil doesn't overplay either. You'd think with all this stuff that he's doing, okay, this guy's he's like making it all about the drums, but he's not. It
No,
works for the song. He's not overplaying.
no,
He's
he's
just
really
good.
not. It seems
He's
like he
just
is, but
that
he's
good.
not.
I yeah, I
He's
think
just good.
I
Yeah.
think just a very musical drummer, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
um
Yeah.
Yes.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so to me, and it's funny because like Fly By Night in terms of the whole Rush catalog is not I mean, let's put it this way. There's like five Rush songs in the entire catalog that I'm not that thrilled with.
Mhm.
And of the entire catalog. I mean, it's like Rush is one of my all-time favorite bands. So and so I mean, oftentimes I'm going to put Rush at number one. They often fight with Iron Maiden with for the number one spot. So but it's it's actually not my favorite Rush record. Okay, but that's not to say I don't love it because I just pretty much love
Mhm.
everything Rush does. Um, but I have to kind of think, okay, how does it stack up against, like Pink Floyd? I mean, that's a
The
weird,
weird pairing.
it's
Yeah.
very weird because you think about like Neil Peart, Nick Mason. I mean, it's like,
Hmm.
how do you pick that? And
Yeah.
there's my segue to you guys. Like, okay, and
You're gonna have to,
Pink
all
Floyd,
right. Well,
we're here. I mean, and we can bounce back and forth between these albums since they're up against each other here. So
yeah,
Yeah.
Tom, do you want to take the lead on "Wish You Were Here"?
Yeah. Man, wish you were here. Holy moly. I mean, I'm just gonna grab it real quick. Yeah, this album, I've lived with this for so long, and there's just the atmosphere. I mean, like you said, this pairing is so different because Rush is like very in your face, like
mhm.
aggressive, and in a cool way. And this is
Mhm.
much more. This is like almost the opposite, where it's like woo, pull back. And then, I mean, I always laugh about like how I remember playing this for my daughter, and she's like, "Dad, are they ever gonna sing?" Like when you
Oh,
listen, when
that's
you put
like,
this,
yeah.
you put this on, and it's like Shine On You Crazy Diamond goes on for like 4 minutes before there's even any singing.
Yeah.
And it's just, but I love that about Floyd. I mean, that's my favorite thing about Pink Floyd is it's like glacial. It's like this like
Mhm.
glacial atmosphere that just kind of, and they like hold on a chord for forever. And then Gilmore's doing this, doing this like little bluesy thing. And you're like, oh my God. And it just sounds so good. And it puts you in a different mood. It puts you in a completely mood changer, you know?
The amount the what those guys can say in so little, it's like a minimalist kind of approach in a lot of ways. Like Gilmore says so much with so few notes.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's just his notes just sing.
Yes.
And Nick just provides that, like it's just a soothing drum, approach to the,
Yes.
it's just
Good
like,
way.
oh, you're lulling me here. It was like, into
Yeah.
not to sleep, but into just kind of like this just meditative state almost. And
Hmm.
but I do think Wish You Were Here though. I mean, I put in my notes, what did I say? I have so many notes on some of this stuff. I'll just try to paraphrase it. Um, Pink Floyd does change and experiment from album to album, but it always still sounds like Pink Floyd. It's like, okay,
Yes. Yeah.
like Welcome to the Machine wouldn't fit at all on like Dark Side of the Moon, or it's just like,
Mhm.
and that song is not, to me, not soothing at all. To me, Welcome to the Machine is this kind of like claustrophobic kind of,
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
but it works. It fits. And then to go from that into Have a Cigar,
Hmm.
right? Which is just like, it's so strange because the styles do change on the album, but there's such a fluidity from song to song that it takes you kind of on this musical journey that it doesn't feel disjointed at all to me. It feels extremely cohesive as a record, even though it is very different from track to track. I don't, I think when you get to Wish You Were Here, the title track, I think that kind of brings in a little bit back kind of the Shine on You Crazy Diamond vibe a bit,
Hmm.
but it does kind of take you on that arc, I think. I don't know. What do you guys think as far as that kind of flow of the album goes?
I think it's a perfectly sequenced record. You and I always talk about how sequencing is important, and
Yeah.
in terms of producing, producing records and writing songs. And I'm sure Tom, you would agree that you really have to kind of get that sequencing down. It's important, and this album is sequenced perfectly. It's the bookends are great. Shine on You Crazy Diamond bookends, and like Brian talked about how you know stylistically Wish You Were Here is so different from Have a Cigar and Welcome to the Machine, but it all works so perfectly together. It's just
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
what do you
it's almost a perfect record.
what do you
Yeah.
guys what's your
Yeah.
guys' take on having the uh folk singer Roy Harper do the vocal on Have a Cigar? You
I'm
know,
okay. I kind of wish Roger would have done it, but
oh really?
He
yeah,
took
I mean,
took a couple stabs at it, didn't he? He tried. Yeah.
I
I just
I actually think it works really, really well for the song and for the kind of the concept. To me, having somebody in Pink Floyd sing the line, and by the way, which one's pink?
think
Right.
It
Right.
it
Yes.
almost wouldn't work to me.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of struck with is just how much Roy Harper's voice just fits right in. It's like if you're not really well, early on, I didn't realize it wasn't somebody in Pink Floyd. I just thought it was somebody in the band that did it,
Right. Right.
young enough.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
He really does. He kind of comes off as like this sort of third party, like scuzzy record executive or something.
yeah,
Like, come in
yeah,
here, dear boy, have a cigar. It's
yeah.
very, yeah, it's kind of cool in that way. I agree with you.
It
It's
is
kind of,
good. It's weird that like Roger would let somebody do that, but
that
it's
is
because
weird. I agree, Brett. It's weird.
well,
Rogers, because he's had like control issues, it's kind of like, well, it's weird to think, yeah, but that happened on this record. It is kind of cool, I guess, in a
ha
way.
having said that though, in the last part of Shine on You Crazy Diamond at the end of the album, some of the bass work in there is actually David Gilmour.
If, yeah,
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I kind of it's an interesting thing. Roger's got this reputation of being such a control freak in a lot of ways. I guess he was, but then you turn around and you say like, oh well, okay, he didn't. He got somebody else is doing the vocal on that, and Gilmore's playing the bass on this, and so in a way,
Yeah.
it's kind of like what's best for the song, I guess. I don't know. I don't know
Hmm.
a lot about the behind the scenes of the making of this album, except that Sid Barrett apparently showed up when they were recording it. But other than that, I don't know a lot of the background on this record. Do you guys have any insight onto the
I
back
know.
album and the
Yeah, I
I
know
think
some of it. Yeah. Go ahead, Brent. Go ahead.
I think they were having some internal problems at this time, some serious issues, and like you said, Sid showed up while they were, doing the working on the song in the studio, and they didn't recognize him, and that was bizarre. But I think they were having some internal problems at this point, and I don't know really how severe they were, but they were starting to be some cracks in the surface at this point.
but to me, it doesn't show in the music. I mean, it's like to me, it's just like you said, Brian, a perfectly sequenced record, and the mood of it is just I don't know. I just don't even have a
Yeah.
word for it. But
Yeah.
here's the thing about it for me that and where it kind of draws down a little bit. Um, I actually prefer a lot of the stuff in later live versions better. Like,
Mhm.
I prefer Shining You Crazy Diamond from Pulse
Yeah,
better. I prefer Wish You Were
Mhm.
Here from Pulse better. Delicate Sound of Thunder. I'm not a huge fan of Roger Waters' voice to begin with. So if Gilmore's taking over and doing like the vocals on Shining Your, I prefer it. So
Mhm.
when I listen to this record, I love it for what it is, and I think it's nearly a perfect record. But I do kind of say, gosh, yeah. But I do like the live versions of that better. I like the live version of this better. Granted, I don't. we don't have any live versions of like Welcome to the Machine and stuff, but at least that I'm aware of. Are there live versions of Have a Cigar and Welcome to the Machine out there?
There
That's a
might
good
be. I
question.
have to
I,
research that.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think I've ever seen Have a Cigar on a live record.
Yeah, I don't think
I
so.
don't know.
Certainly
I just
not the
want
one
to
I mentioned, but they
I
would
just want to make two
later.
quick points.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Shiny Crazy Diamond, the four notes that Dave plays, that da 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 da, that alone, that how he came up with that or what, that is just, that's genius. Though
Yes.
that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up every time I hear that. And I agree with Brian that the Pulse version even more so, because Pink Floyd, I get emotionally invested when I listen to Pink Floyd, more so than probably most of the bands that I like. And another thing I wanted to say about this record, I was watching somebody else comment on some Floyd stuff the other day, and they made an interesting point. They said, and this is almost a direct quote: Pink Floyd forces you to be patient,
Oh,
which goes
Yes.
to
yeah.
what
Yes.
you guys said about the start of the record. Tom's like, yeah, my daughter's listening to this song, and they're like, Dad, are they ever going to start singing? It's like 4 minutes in, they do, but
Hmm.
just it builds and builds. It moves at a glacial pace, and you just got to kind of stick with it. And if you do, you're going to be rewarded.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point. I like that. Forces you to be patient. That's a really good point. And you also mentioned, it's funny, Susan just messaged me this earlier today. I had never heard of this. People who get goosebumps while listening to music have a special mental condition that makes them extremely emotional to a certain kind of stimuli. It's a condition known as frisson, Frisson. I don't know if that's true or not. Could look it up more, but I thought of that when you said it makes the hair stand up. Uh,
Every time.
It happens to me too, on the same
yeah.
way.
So maybe that's why we like talking about this stuff is because we get so emotionally invested in it. But it's an
Yeah.
interesting contrast. Fly By Night is this direct, most of the songs on that, except for By Tour, they're short. Making Memories is what? Not even 3 minutes.
Right.
Beneath the
Right.
Being Behind, just over 3 minutes. Whereas Pink Floyd, it's like, okay, you got to invest a little bit of time here.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
that point, Tom, have you heard the new mix of Shine on You Crazy Diamond? Where and it's edited so it's the whole thing start to finish. Have you heard that yet?
I don't think I've heard that. No.
Okay, check it out.
I'll have to see it. I'll have to seek it out.
Definitely check
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
So
Um, but really quick, I wanted to
yeah.
say that like this is interesting in a lot of ways too. This Wish You Were Here is very interesting because it's like every band's got an arc, right? And Brent mentioned this a little bit where it's like 1970, it's kind of interesting because you look at Pink Floyd's history, this album was sort of like the last like real and I love Animals, but Animals was really there was a lot of tension making that record. And and like you guys were saying, it's interesting that Roger Waters let this happen. He became more and more controlling on the next couple records, and it started to, like you said, the cracks where the cracks started to show on this record. But to your point, Brian, you can't hear the cracks at all on this. I mean, it sounds perfect. It sounds great. So they worked out. They must have compromised on this record between the music and the lyrics because it works perfectly. And another thing is they're coming off that we didn't mention they're coming off a blockbuster. This is
Oh
this
yeah.
is right after Dark Side of the Moon.
Mhm.
So I think they were a little bit like they had a little bit of what's the word, like a little bit of like they couldn't figure out what to do next because there was a lot of for a long time they didn't do anything. They were sitting in the studio like going like twiddling their thumbs because they were like, what do we how do we follow up that? You know?
Can you imagine what that kind of pressure would be like?
Yeah.
It's like,
No.
but somehow they did it. I mean, and,
Yeah,
and
they did it.
in a lot of ways, and I love Dark Side of the Moon, but in a lot of ways, I just as soon put on Wish You Were Here. I think it's,
Same here.
in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, I, in some ways, I actually prefer it.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's
It's hard.
it's hard. And even you mentioned Animals. Animals is
Yeah.
like you said. I was aware there's more friction going on when they were making Animals, and that's really more of a Roger Waters kind of drip
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
and I love Animals. It's like
I do too.
oh. Um,
Animals is
but
great.
where I actually start to fall off a bit with The Wall. That's
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of The Wall that's great, but a lot of it, but we're not here to talk about The Wall, right? Uh,
Right. Right.
we
Right.
can throw that
We're
in.
getting off on a tangent as we always
So,
do in these things.
yeah. So tell you, Brent, how did we do? Did we do a vote on? Yeah, I think we did that. We did a vote between the first bracket, like between these two, and then we went on to the second bracket, right?
We
Yeah.
did.
Okay. So now Brent and I, when we do like album ranking stuff, we have a system where we calculate totals and do all that. With this, we just kind of go with a gut feeling, like in this matchup, my gut feeling is this for this reason, and that's so there's no funky mathematical calculations with this. Um, so I don't know, are you guys ready to do a vote on
I'm
this?
ready. I've already got my prop. I'm ready.
Okay.
You're gonna do the countdown?
So again, folks, it's between Rush's Fly By Night, early 1975, and Wish You Were Here, late 1975. So
Mhm.
on the count of three,
All right.
guys ready?
Yep.
One, two, three. Whoa.
Unanimous.
Okay, it is unanimous. Unanimous. Okay,
Wish You Were Here moves on to the championship round.
it does. And now here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. I'm actually much more likely to pull out Fly By Night and listen to it than Wish You Were Here. But if you ask me which is a better album start to finish, what's more cohesive, it's Wish You Were Here. That's the thing
Yeah.
that broke it
Yeah.
for me. What is the reason why you put Wish You Were Here over the top? Tom, you want to?
Yeah, I think it's just you just nailed it. I mean, it's a complete work of art. It's like it's a very you almost have to listen to it all the way through when you put it on. You can't like listen to part of it and be like, okay, that's good. You have to finish it, and it's just so well conceived, and it's Pink Floyd at their height, and it's just so well done. And like Brent was talking about that, the four notes, just the
Yeah.
do 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 do, and it's like there's a picture of I saw a picture of David Gilmour at Abbey Road Studios in 1974 or 5 or whatever it was, recording, and he's in this cavernous studio, and he's just standing by himself with the Strat and this huge stack of amps, and he's way back in the corner, like way back in the studio, and they have, I mean, just he's got to be doing those notes, like those cavernous huge notes that just so anyway, it's just such a great, like Brent said, it's perfect. It's like a perfect record. I just
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Brent, I guess you're gonna second that.
I can't add, he said it all.
Yeah.
I agree with everything he just said. That's exactly why I picked it. Exactly why I picked
Okay, so moving on to round two. Round two is Fandango, ZZ Top, which I thought was an interesting choice since it's half live.
it.
And
Yes.
vinyl.
Wow,
Okay.
that's pretty cool.
And of course, Physical Graffiti, which is not half live, but it's about half like outtakes from previous recordings.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So there,
Yes.
And we don't consider live albums per se for this what we're doing, but because I consider Fandango basically a studio album with like live stuff on it, so that's why we included it here, just to kind of
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I agree. If you when you
Agreed.
yeah, yeah, okay. Even though side one is live, but at the same time, I mean, the medley just comes across like one long song. So I always just think of it as like three live songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so um,
Yeah.
Tom, you wanna throw out what made you gravitate towards
Yeah.
taking this off the list?
Are you ready for ZZ Top? I love that introduction. Um, but this one is a sentimental thing for me. It's the second album that I ever owned. So,
That copy
yes.
that the
No,
copy you
that's
have right
not, this
there?
isn't the copy. No,
Oh, okay.
no, I found this at a store and I was like, I have to get it. It was just, again, sentimental.
Yeah.
I wish I still had the original. I wish I did, but I'm sure I ruined it. I mean, I'm sure that I had like a little record player. I was, like, I'm sure it's just ruined, but I I remember listening. I remember sitting in my bedroom listening to this record like over and over again. This is before the internet. You only had like three records. You just keep listening to them over and over again. So so yeah, that's why I picked ZZ Top Fandango. I had to. I was like, when I saw it on the list, I was like, I have to pick it because it's just such a sentimental thing for me. And I do think that, I mean, I'm going to give it away right now, but I do think that the studio side is awesome. Like the studio side is like 5 stars. It's like Tres Hombres Part Two. It's like it's amazing, so good. And the live stuff is good, but it's just like, oh, like imagine if this was a full studio record. Like the studio stuff is so amazing. That's the way I always look at Fandango. I'm like, I like the live stuff, but man, if they had just like waited a little longer, maybe made this a full studio record,
Yeah.
oof.
I
And
agree.
you,
I do prefer the live or the studio stuff to the live as well. Yeah.
well, and you just said how do you follow up a masterpiece like Tres Hombres? Well, and
Yeah.
you're basically saying, hey, they hit it out of the park with this record. I mean, it's like if the whole record would have been studio stuff, how great could it have really been, right? Not that the live stuff's bad, but if
Right.
I'm hearing you right, you're like, man, this studio stuff is smoking. These guys should have cranked out some more studio tracks on this platter.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the way I feel. Every time I hear Fandango, that's the way I feel about it. I'm like, I wish they had done another side of studio stuff. I mean, it's almost like I think they liked Cream. I think they were Cream fans, and Cream did Wheels of Fire, which had one album live and one album studio. So it's kind of, I wonder if they were influenced by that.
That does make a lot of
Um,
sense. I never thought of that.
yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense.
And you mentioned, we've talked about this. You mentioned the sentimental aspect of this. We always talk about how your entry point to a band or maybe a time in your life or whatever makes a record special to you. So to hear you say this was the second record I ever bought, that explains now because we were like, it's an interesting choice. Now it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Yes. I
Yep.
think I couldn't wait to tell you guys that's why, because I'm sure you're like, Fandango, why do you think that? I
I,
just couldn't help
yeah,
it. I had to.
but
I was
that's
like,
cool. Let's
I
Yeah.
wonder why he picked it. Well, we're going to find out. And now it makes perfect sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, and
Yep.
that's the thing. Especially when you're young and you have this kind of brain plasticity, and your brain is developing. It's like a sponge,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
the music that you hear at that time. I mean, as much as I love a lot of the music that's coming out, I mean, this year there's been some great stuff that's come out, and I've just been thrilled with it. But it's hard to replace the stuff that you grew up with because of how it affected your brain development, and it's like it's all in the grooves, right? The grooves of the record kind of
Yes.
go into the
Yes.
folds,
Like,
the little.
yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. What if you had to pinpoint the highlight on Fandango, what would it be?
Oh
Or
man.
yeah, what are your favorite?
Um, oh, I love Nasty Dogs and Funky King. Oh,
Yeah, I like that lick too.
that. I mean, it's just so nobody grooves like ZZ Top. Like when they start grooving, you're like, oh, it's just like yes. And then Balinese is this killer track. Mexican Blackbird. No, I heard it on the X. I mean, that I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so tight. It's just, do you remember back in 1966? I mean, it's just like so good. And then, I mean, Tush was a big hit on the radio, and that's kind of what sold this album, honestly. I remember hearing it on the radio quite a bit. Um, and but then like Blue Jean Blues is like this really cool, like sort of smoky blues, like real slow.
Mhm.
And then and Mexican Blackbird is like really got that Tex-Mex thing that ZZ Top had, he says something about like when I was listening to it for this, I forgot he does the whole like, hey, keep your hands on the wheel, man. Hey, give throw with some beers from back there. It's like you feel like you're in a car going down to Mexico. It's crazy. It's like it totally puts you in that. It's awesome. So cool.
It-
So I love the studio side. I love it. Love it.
Interesting. Yeah. I think, yeah, I like the licks in Nasty Dogs. Um, I think Heard It on the X and Tush are the two like singles from the record.
Yes.
What's interesting to me, I never really thought about this until I kind of just sat down and listened to it a little more closely. But does it sound to you like Tush almost comes from a different session? because to me the guitars they sound uh bigger, fuller. The snare, Frank Beard's snare sounds fatter, bigger. And I kept going back and forth
Yeah.
between Heard It on the X and Tush, and I'm like, it sounds different. It's like it doesn't sound like the same album, but it's not a bad thing. I just wondered if it was something you guys had noticed. I just put it in my notes, and I was like, wanted to ask you guys.
I wonder if it was like mixed differently because they knew it was going to be a single or something. Like, who knows?
Oh,
I don't
that
know.
could be. I don't
Maybe.
know. I
What
don't
do
know.
you think, Brent?
That could be. I didn't even know. I'd have to go back and listen to it. Now that you mentioned, I'm probably gonna have to go back and check it
Yeah,
out because
and maybe my ears are just screwed up. I don't know, but you listen to it and pay attention to the snare and kind of how fat it is compared to the snare on Heard It on the X. But I agree with you. Heard It on the X is like you make a really good point about just how tight they are or they were.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um I mean they still are. But of course Dusty's passed. But they
Yeah. I'm
got
so sad about
elderly.
that.
So.
Yeah.
But
It's a bummer.
yeah, I heard it on the X. I think that is the standout track on the record. And Frank's we mentioned Neil's great snare work on Anthem. Frank's snare work on Heard It on the X is nothing to sneeze at either. Snow.
No, it's not. It's
It's
not.
yeah.
And what is it? I want to ask you guys, what is it about the guitar playing of Billy Gibbons? Like what? It's just something. He's got this touch that's like it's so cool. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, it's funny because I wouldn't. I mean, I know I wouldn't list him as like my favorite guitar player of all time. I have a long list of others that would come in ahead of him, but I really respect and I really like his playing because, as far as I know, he plays with like the lightest gauge strings you can get, and
Oh,
he
does
has
he?
like a
Yeah.
yeah, he plays with a really, really, really light touch.
Hmm.
And I hear those really tight, grooves like on songs like on Heard It on the X. And I'm trying to picture from a playing standpoint, playing that with with really, really light gauge strings. Um, I don't know. And his sound is so fat and big. It doesn't sound like it
Yeah.
would be a sound
It
that would be really light gauge strings,
it
but
sounds like the opposite. Yeah, it sounds like he's got really heavy gauge strings.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's as far as I understand, and maybe a ZZ Top fan, could elaborate and post on that. But that's my understanding of it. But maybe I'm really off base on that. I don't know.
well, he's always got a really good tone, and that's, I mean, always. And when he plays, you know it's him, which is the sign of a great guitar player. It's like when you
Yeah.
hear, you
Yeah.
know it's him. And his soloing
Yeah.
is in his approach. In some ways, he's a minimalist in terms of his playing, but he gets a lot across. He makes every note count, kind of like what we said about Dave Gilmour. When Dave plays, he's not a shredder, but he can do more with one or two notes than most guys could do with 20.
Well,
Yes, yes. And he grooves. There's some
that's
groove in his playing. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to describe it. It's just like, man, sometimes when I hear certain ZZ Top songs, I'm like, oh, like yes. Like it's so hard to explain why I love it. It doesn't make sense for me. Like I don't why do I love ZZ Top? Like I like all this other prog, crazies, and that I like ZZ Top. So it's just weird.
to me, it's like it's blues that grooves. A lot of times blues
Yeah,
doesn't groove, but
right.
but ZZ Top is blues that grooves. And
Yeah, yes.
I
Yes.
it's funny. I'm not a schooled musician by any stretch. I don't read music and stuff, but our drummer Andy was explaining to me. He was like, he goes, you have a tendency to play ahead of the beat. He goes, your sense of groove is different than like Josh, our bass player.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and it makes a weird kind of sound sometimes when we're not in sync with each other. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and we have to figure it out.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think that's the thing that Billy has is that groove. Yeah,
He's like a little behind almost.
yeah,
Yeah. Like, yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
just that. Yeah. Anyway,
On
it's
the
cool.
riff, just the stuff that they come up with. It's like, again, nobody sounds like these guys. When you hear them play, you know immediately that it's them. And
Yes.
but
Yeah.
because there's so much blues in there, it's also so accessible.
yeah,
And
oh yeah, very
it's
much so.
it's 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 so blues based and accessible, but at the same time, it's like blues could be such a real static thing. It's almost like, well, it's blues. It all sounds the same.
Right. Right.
But that's not the case with ZZ Top. It's like, oh, it's blues, but it's ZZ Top.
Right.
So
It's
Yeah.
easy to listen to. It's very palatable. It's almost kind of like chill. I mean, it's kind of like, hey man,
Yes. Yes.
easy top. Like, like Tom said, we're just driving down the road in the car,
Yep.
with
Yep.
Billy, listen to some ZZ Top, which would be great.
Yep.
Brent,
Hey, 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 keep both hands on the wheel there.
uh, Brent, Brent, what's your high point on Fandango, would you say?
Nasty Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that. I'm going to say Hurt on the X, but I could say Nasty Dogs, and I
Yeah,
could too. Yeah,
I gotta go with Nasty Dogs.
yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Okay. Well, and weirdly enough, I mean, you'd never think, okay, ZZ Top's going to go up against Led Zeppelin, but
But
Yeah.
these two albums were not released that far apart from each other, were they?
I don't believe they were.
They're both kind of middle of 1975, although a lot of Physical Graffiti was, recorded for other tracks. I have it in my notes which songs were recorded, which sessions and stuff like that. I'm not going to nitpick it though, but some of it goes back to Zeppelin 4, Houses of the Holy. I think one track is an outtake from 3.
Yes. Ron Yar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, which I can't pronounce, so thank you for saying
Yeah.
that. How do you
hmm
say that again?
I think it's Bron Yar. I don't know.
It's
I'm not sure.
Welsh. I know it's Welsh, but I have a real hard time with my Welsh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I should
I don't
talk
know.
to
I'm probably
Tom
saying it
Jones
wrong.
because Tom Jones is Welsh.
Yes.
He would help me.
Yes, he would help. But yeah, I think that's from the third album sessions. Yeah.
That is. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, and I think one could argue that some of those outtakes are as good or better than the stuff that was from those albums to begin with. I'm not knocking. I mean, I actually think Zeppelin 3 is possibly the best album that they ever did. So
I love Zeppelin 3 for sure.
Mhm. I actually like, as time has gone on, I have grown to like Jimmy Page's good acoustic playing more than his electric playing a lot. In a lot of cases, I should say. Um, so yeah, I don't know. What's your in point on Physical Graffiti? I mean, is this like was this one of the Zeppelin albums that you heard first? Was it a later Zeppelin album? I mean, where does Physical Graffiti fall for you in terms of like being a Zeppelin fan?
Yeah, I didn't hear it first. I think I heard the fourth record at first, and then Houses of the Holy, I think, was second. And then I kind of went back to the first three,
Hmm.
and then I think I got Physical Graffiti. But man, when Physical Graffiti hits you, it's like, oh my Lord. It's like
So
this is just so good.
now a lot of people, name check Physical Graffiti as not just one of the greatest albums of all time, but the best Led Zeppelin album ever. Do you agree that it's the best Zeppelin album, or
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I would say it's hard to argue that it's not. I mean, it's really kind of like the height of Zeppelin. To me, it kind of like again, I was talking about Pink Floyd had it feels like Zeppelin and Physical Graffiti is kind of hitting their peak.
Mhm.
And then after that, it kind of goes like, I mean, as much as I love Presence, I love Achilles' Last Stand, I love all that side. But it feels to me like Physical Graffiti is just them still just like hitting everything that they can do and doing it amazingly well, you
Yeah,
know?
And yeah, Brent, you sound like you were going to jump in there too.
I agree. I've long said it is my favorite Zeppelin album, and then in going through and listening to it again, it pretty much confirmed it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
I love Zeppelin 2 a lot, but it's hard to argue with. There's some really good standout stuff on this record. It's like there's no filler on here, and to have this expanded edition with all the extra stuff is really cool. But like Tom just said, it's like them at the height of their powers,
So,
and this really
so
captures.
Brent, I just want to jump on what you just said there, though. You said there's no filler. Okay, it's a double album that has outtakes from previous recording sessions that were not used. And
So
what do we say? There's no filler. It's like if that's if those are outtakes, that says something about the band. It says something,
That's what's so amazing. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. That's what makes this album so unreal.
Yeah, my favorite
Yeah.
Zeppelin song of all time is on this album, and that's The Rover. That
Yeah.
that song is it's red hot.
So
That
killer.
Yeah.
So killer.
like one of the greatest riffs ever written is on that.
Yes.
It's so
Yes.
killer.
Yes.
So yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
love that song. Woo.
it, it, I'm gonna give a special shout out to Trampled Underfoot because
Yeah. Yeah.
the the clavinet in
Yes.
Trampled Underfoot, it's like, to me, that's, if I had to pick, and it's hard because of, obviously it's a long record, but if I had to pick like off the top of my head, which, like, the favorite song on the record, I'd say Trampled Underfoot. Although
Yeah.
I mhm.
I'm gonna mention another really song I really
I was just about to second guess myself. So go ahead, Brent, and then I'll throw in my
I
guessing.
if I had to do like my top 10 favorite Zeppelin songs, Houses of the Holy would probably fit in my top 10, which is
Yeah.
everybody name checks Kashmir, which is great. That's a 5-star song. I'm not gonna argue with that. But Houses of the Holy, it's like that. I think that's kind of an overlooked gem on this record, if I can say that. It's like that song
Yeah.
is so cool.
Isn't it?
And so,
It is
it's
so
so
bizarre that it's like, okay, so you do this album, Houses of the Holy, and you have a song called Houses of the Holy, but you're not going to put that song on that album. You're going to wait till later because I don't know why it's not good enough to put on Houses of the Holy. It's bizarre, but I agree with you. I think that's also a highlight of the record. Yeah.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty
We're not going to take that one. We're going to take the crunch. We'll put that one on instead.
Right.
Uh,
That's
right.
I mean, they did. I mean, there had to be something to that, but
yeah, but
Yeah.
I do love House of Holy, don't get me wrong. I like that album too.
um, I I actually, yeah, I agree with Brent though. I think the song Houses of the Holy, I actually like that better than some of the stuff on the album Houses of the Holy. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
But what are some other tracks on this record that are high points for you?
I'm going to mispronounce this on purpose. The Wonton song,
Oh,
as
like
opposed to Wanton.
That's the one that I would pick as well.
Yeah.
There's something about that doodle 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 doodle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
John Bonham playing out of his mind.
Yeah. That's I love that song. And I always tell myself it's not wonton, it's wanton.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a,
Mhm.
it's it's not a noun. It is not a Chinese dumpling, although it would be
Yes.
really, really cool if they'd had actually written it about a Chinese dumpling. So
Yes. It's
uh
like people that say, I really like the song Die Your Maker.
Jamaica.
yeah.
People used to say that when I was younger. I
Yeah, oh
love
yeah.
Die Your Maker.
Yeah. But then you learn the joke about, like, the Jamaican
Jamaica. Yeah.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Down by the Seaside?
it's a nice song when you're down
It's
by the
nice.
side.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of weird that it's from the fourth record. It doesn't feel anything like the rest of the fourth album.
Mm.
I mean, it's never.
That's what's cool about this record. It's like you find out when these things were done, and then you kind of like try to, like you just said, it doesn't really fit with this, but they fit on this record together. And like I maintain, there's really no filler on this record, but really it's a record of filler stuff that.
In a weird sort of way, I see what you're saying.
But
Yeah.
and Down by the Seaside is not really anything like Kashmir, right? But somehow
No.
it helps make a really, really, really good record.
But if I'm hearing you correctly, it didn't make, because it was a Zeppelin 4 outtake, correct?
Yes.
Side. But
Yep.
but and it doesn't fit in on 4. 4 is a pretty cohesive record, but
Yeah,
yet somehow it fits here in this kind of hodgepodge of outtakes,
yeah,
which
Yeah.
it's so strange. Oftentimes, we said this is often cited as Zeppelin's best album ever, even though it is a mishmash of new recordings plus these old outtakes from previous sessions. And then oftentimes the album that gets ranked last is Coda, which is in a lot of ways like Physical Graffiti because it's outtakes from
yeah.
different, recording sessions. So it's kind of, to me, I found it kind of interesting that oftentimes, the least Zeppelin album is in some ways a sister album to the album that gets ranked the best.
And imagine, okay, this is why I always like to bring up these scenarios. What if Physical Graffiti was a single record and Coda ended up having all these songs on it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Coda would have been like, "Oh my God, what an amazing posthumous record," you know?
Right? Yeah.
Right. Would have
Uh,
been. And these guys, they shouldn't have quit when they did. They should have kept going because
well,
look how great this,
so, well, obviously, I mean, you're getting into the Bonham question, right? And
Yes, right. Yeah.
um, I think for my money, though, uh, and I understand where like Robert Plant's kind of coming from he's explained, he's been really hesitant to do Zeppelin's, stuff, but he did do the reunion thing with Jason Bonham, which I can't believe. What year was that? Was that 2007?
2007. Yeah.
It's like, my God, is it that long
Can't
ago?
believe it was that long ago. I know.
But I thought
Crazy.
that was spectacular. I thought Jason did an awesome job.
Oh God, yeah.
And frankly, I think I mean, we're kind of off the physical graffiti comment here a little bit, but I think he was great with that. And then his Jason Bonham kind of Zeppelin experience or whatever it's called, it actually came through Central Iowa, and I regret not going to see it because he played the entire physical graffiti album, and it's
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
I should have gone and
Yeah.
seen that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, he put his heart and soul into that 2007 performance. I mean, he just put his absolute, you can see it.
yeah,
Just put his heart and soul into it.
for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so,
But anyway,
gosh, yeah, I don't know. So,
but how about 10 years gone though? I gotta mention that.
oh,
Like that just that like guitar army thing that Jimmy does. Oh my God. Do 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 do. Just love that. Oh
So
my God.
I got a question for you from a guitar playing kind of standpoint. Uh, do you think Jimmy Page, if you had to say he shines more as a player or a writer or a producer, where would you say he shines the most? As a player, a writer, or producer?
Wow, that's a great question. That's really hard to answer too, because man, people undervalue him as a producer.
Hmm.
Like he had so many great ideas, and well, for example, they talk about the first album versus the Jeff Beck group, Truth, right? Because like they were kind of the same exact template. It was like, and Jeff Beck felt like the Zeppelin had ripped him off, or that Jimmy had kind of ripped off his ideas because he had Rod Stewart, he had the throaty blues screamer kind of guy, and people were like, "Oh, this is just like Jeff." The difference produced by Jimmy Page, and
Mm,
that album. I mean, the first Zeppelin album sounds so different than Truth. I mean, sonically. So, and I think that had a lot to do with Jimmy and his ideas and the way he wanted to do it, and it was just it was perfect. And also John Bonham. Let's be honest, John Bonham was another huge difference. But because you could record John Bonham with like three mics or two mics or whatever, and it sounds unbelievable. I mean, just the way he played. Um, but anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. But basically, what I'm saying is, Jimmy, you're right. Jimmy, as an arranger,
hmm.
producer, he had it all, man. He was a lot. He had constant ideas going. Like he would, Kashmir, for example, he had that in his head, and then he put it down. He put it down at home on this kind of elaborate demo. And I think 10 Years Gone was kind of similar. And he kind of came in. He said he couldn't wait to get together with Bonham because those two, Jimmy and Bonham, had this like thing. They were like connected. I think it was part of the magic of the band. And he said he couldn't wait to get together with Bonham to like flesh out the ideas. But yeah,
Yeah,
anyway,
which to
it's
that,
a hard question. I didn't really answer it, but it's a tough question.
well, sometimes I think sometimes just the question sometimes is more important than an answer. It's like
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
you get the question that kind of stirs the thinking a little bit. And I have a follow-up to that though. And as I was talking to the one of the other guys in our little entourage, Andy. I was asking Andy about. I said, "Do you think that does does Jimmy Page as a guitar player does he play with more feeling or more attitude?" Is there more of an is it more of an attitude in his playing, or is it more of a feel? Is he a feel player or an attitude player? And that might be kind of getting into the weeds and nitpicking a little bit, but um, just from a player, from a player standpoint, I mean, you're a musician, so any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's another great question. And it's a very, like you said, it's a very muso question. And I think that I think he definitely has, I would say if I had to pick, I'd say attitude, because he's got this sort of, like people, there's always this thing of, oh, Jimmy's kind of a sloppy player or
Mhm.
whatever. But
Where I was going, yeah.
you listen to some of the live stuff and you're like, yeah, it's a little bit sloppy, but like, who cares? Like, it still has that feeling and attitude.
hmm
Both things you mentioned.
hmm
It's got that attitude, and it works. It works
So
for what they're doing. So
that okay, so where I was going with that, and it's interesting how you responded with the live versus studio thing, because I actually in some ways prefer listening to his so-called sloppy live stuff because I think that you get the attitude with a bit more feel there. Sometimes when I listen to Zeppelin studio stuff, to me it's almost like he's restraining that a little bit because he knows he's recording and it's
yeah.
and so
Hmm.
sometimes I get the sense that the feel is being I mean, he never loses the attitude. There's always
Right.
attitude in his
Right.
but and I don't know, maybe that's too muso and maybe somebody's like already onto another video at this point because they're like, man, that question.
No, I think it's a great question because people bring it up all the time about Jimmy Page. It's brought up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so you got two. I don't know. We could just keep going on and on. I mean, Boogie with Stu and Night
Oh God, yeah.
in the light.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
oh,
mean,
great. Oh, great.
yeah.
that's
Yes.
just that's just atmosphere, and that's just an atmospheric, Um, so
Yeah, it's great.
I like the major minor changes in that as well. So, Brent, you mentioned Kashmir before as a five-star song. It is a great song, but do you guys feel in a sense that Kashmir kind of overshadows a lot of the rest of the album?
think so. I don't think it's fair, but I think that's a fair statement. I would agree with that.
And let me qualify
Yeah.
the question there, because Kashmir obviously gets a lot of radio airplay to this day. I mean, I don't really listen to radio, but I mean, you do hear it. It's out there everywhere, and it's like some of these other songs. We mentioned, the Wanton song, and we mentioned, um, well, God, all of them, right? But
Mhm.
Trampled Underfoot and stuff. And it's like, man, these are songs that should have as much attention. It's like
Yeah.
the spotlight put on 'em, which I guess is why someone like Jason Bonham played the whole album live recently.
Like I said, from my money, the Rover's the best song they ever recorded.
Oh,
That's my
you did say that.
that's my
Yeah.
favorite Led Zeppelin song of all time.
Interesting. I can't pick a
What
single
a riff.
favorite song.
What a riff.
It is a
Riff,
great riff, but I can't. There's no way I could just pick like one song like that. You're able
Yeah.
to do that, and I can't. So.
I wish I'd come up with that riff. That's when I say that that like
It
Tom
see
said,
and it seems so simple, right? It's like
it it is, but it's
it's simple. Yeah.
good.
But
It's
that's the
Yeah.
so
thing. It's like there's a genius in simplicity, right?
Right. Right.
Like
Yep.
fun.
how can you come up with
Yes.
something because the riff is the hook in that song. It's like,
Right.
And like you said, he plays it with this. He's got this attitude that he plays with. Because when you
Yes.
asked,
Yes.
my answer was it's the attitude. I think Jimmy's really all attitude. Not that he doesn't play with feel,
mhm.
but it is just the attitude. He's like the quintessential rock star, the quintessential rock
Yeah.
guitar. In the Rover, and that riff is like really a great example of
Yeah.
You always feel like you see him with the long hair, with the cigarette coming out of his
that.
mouth, and he's,
I was just gonna say that
you
with a
know,
spotlight on him.
spotlight on him, and he's just,
I was just exactly, yep, yep, moving back and forth. I was just
yeah,
exactly the same thing. You beat me to it. Exactly.
yeah.
Awesome.
God, that's
So
it.
are we ready to pick a winner here between ZZ Top and
Yes,
Fandango?
yes,
This
I'm
this one's
ready.
not this one's not much of a battle. Let's be honest.
Okay, I think I know what you're gonna say.
I don't know. Oh, we already.
Right?
Well, he.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry,
you're fine. Here we go.
Okay.
It's
All
I
right.
jumped the gun. Sorry.
You're
Hey,
fine. You're
we,
fine.
we couldn't resist. He had to show. He had to
I,
show us what.
I couldn't help it.
The
We got Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin in the finals.
the sentimentality did not of ZZ Top just couldn't win over for you.
No, it didn't win over Physical Graffiti. There's no way.
Yeah. Okay.
Not many things do beat Physical Graffiti, if I'm honest. Oh, I shouldn't. Oh my God, stop. Sorry.
But you said not many things. So
Not many,
there
exactly. Not many.
Yeah, it's also interesting because the way we set this up with, 4 albums, and then it's like, well, but then there's a bracket, so there's no guarantee, right?
Yes. Now this is more of a battle. Floyd versus Zeppelin. This is hard. This is not
we'll
easy.
take it on.
Okay.
Let's watch you go ahead and start. For us some thought. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, obviously we've already talked through both albums, but I would just say before we do a final vote here, do you have a just kind of a comprehensive thought on the matchup between Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here" and Zeppelin's "Physical Graffiti" before disclosing your?
It just feels the thing that we touched on earlier. It feels like they're both at the top of their game on these records. They're both they're just firing on all cylinders on both of these albums, and both bands seem to have hit a pinnacle at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Brent?
No, yeah, and again, we talked about stylistically how they're so dissimilar, but they're so great albums, which I think speaks to the we listen to all different kinds of music, and obviously there's really not a whole lot in common between Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, but here we are talking about these two as being among the best records of 1975, and I agree with what powers in both bands.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense they would square off in the finals. Well, it's a heavyweight fight. They're slugging it out.
It's a heavyweight, exactly. Heavyweight battle, exactly. It's a perfect way to say it.
And it's funny because in this particular discussion, I had a pretty strong feeling of who was going to win both rounds. With the final round, though, I'm not sure. I have no idea what you guys are going to pick. So I'm actually really kind of eager to see what you guys did. Are you guys ready to?
Yeah, and actually in going through this exercise, I had to do more thinking about it than I thought I would. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me going through it, which is fun.
Okay. All right. So between these two mammoth albums, we are picking a winner, and of course, the reason we have 3 of us here doing this is because obviously, the only way it ties is if it's unanimous. So, okay, are we ready to disclose the winner here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
On a count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh! Wow.
Okay. So Pink Floyd, "Wish You Were Here" has won. However,
I have no problem with that.
do you want to just give a quick thought as to what pushed Physical Graffiti over the edge for you?
Again, this is total nitpick, complete total nitpick. But I think that the "Shine on You Crazy Diamond" Part 2 wanders a little bit, and people would say that that Zeppelin Physical Graffiti wanders a little bit too, right? With things like Boogie with Stu, and I mean, some people will nitpick, but I just think there's just a lot of brilliance for a double record. It just feels like there's just so much brilliance on there. And it just I don't know. And I've lived with Physical Graffiti a little bit longer, I think, than "Wish You Were Here. A little bit. So maybe it's just further in my DNA. I don't know. It was so hard. I mean, those two they're both brilliant. They're both brilliant.
And I'm guessing on any given day, depending on your mood,
I might switch it. Exactly.
It's just but that's the way okay, Brent, why did you put "Wish You Were Here" over the top?
I just think we talked about the sequencing of "Wish You Were Here" and how if it's not a perfect record, it's really, really close. We also said that I said there's no filler on Physical Graffiti, but I just think the quality of those 5 tracks, it's hard to beat. And even though Physical Graffiti has my all-time favorite Led Zeppelin song on it, I just had to go with the consistency of,
Yeah.
which actually
Okay.
kind of contradicts what Tom said about um, part of the shine on you crazy diamond thing. I just think top to bottom, straight through, it's almost impeccable. So I
Yeah.
had to go with it for that reason.
I picked Wish You Were Here because when like Tom, like you said earlier, if I said drop the needle, but obviously I have the CD version of it here. But if I put on Wish You Were Here, I'm committed. It's like
Yeah.
I gotta get through the whole thing because it just
Hmm.
takes me on this journey. I don't necessarily feel that way about physical graffiti as good as it is. Um, it's an album that I can kind of pick and choose and pull from here and there. So for that reason, I picked Wish You Were Here, even though I still maintain that some of the live versions on like Pulse are actually superior. But I'm going with Wish You Were Here. So
But you can't go wrong with
oh,
either one of them.
No,
no,
you really
you can't.
can't.
You can't. So anyway, I appreciate you guys taking the time to sit around and talk music. It's cool. Tom, I'm glad we met, we connected this way, and hopefully in the future we'll continue to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And for people out there that want to support independent artists, do you want to do a little shout out
Yeah.
here, a little um,
Hmm.
description about where people can access your music, such as the new Crossword Smiles album?
Yes, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I am in a band called Crossword Smiles, and we did put out this record, Consequences and Detours, and we're really proud of it. And it took a lot of time and effort, and a lot of team effort. A lot of people helped us make the record, and it's and you can yeah, you can pick it up on Bandcamp. Just Google, just put in Crossword Smiles into the Googles, and it'll come up.
Yeah,
It'll come up.
and I'll put a link down below. You know, obviously your YouTube channel, Curlessmania, it has a bigger reach than ours does, but you never know. There could be that one person that pops in that sees this and doesn't know of your channel or of Crossword Smiles. So
Yeah, absolutely.
just like
I
to,
appreciate it.
I just think it's just the idea, especially in the world that we live in today, where you can just punch a few buttons and have a computer make something for you. The fact that people are still out there being creative and having an appreciation for the craft of music, coming up with ideas and there's just something. I just think there's something just eternally just amazing about music and things like songs and or because it's like this thing didn't exist. It was, and then now
Yes.
it exists. This thing you can listen to did not exist. Now it exists and it can be shared with other people. And that's just what this is all about to me.
There's
So
something special about that. And you guys know you're musicians, you're in a band as well, and it's like it's hard. It's hard out there. It's sometimes you just put your heart and soul into an album and you just feel like these days everything's so disposable, especially in music. It's just like, okay, that's a great album, on to the next one.
yeah,
Like it just feels like back in the day, people used to sit down and listen and it would multiple singles and it would be like this long, now it's just like it's just but to your point, I have this conversation with a lot of musicians, and you guys will relate to this too. You just said it, you put it perfectly. It's you're creating something from nothing, and you're putting it out you're creating art and you're putting it out into the world, and you're trying to make the world a better place for it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that to me should be the reward, right? So,
yeah. It is. That is
you
absolutely.
know,
So I think it's great. Um, I think having these discussions is great, and hopefully people that are whether they're Zeppelin fans or Floyd fans or whatever, they willing to give to lend an ear for a little bit to some of the stuff that we put out independently because I mean you think you know all of these guys, whether they're superstars or not, it's all kind of part of the same just universe of sounds that please the ear. And
yes, exactly,
anyway, I
exactly.
could get a little too existential and goofball about it, but I'll refrain from going any further with that. So, um, okay. Anything else that you guys want to say before we sign off?
Well, let's do it again in 2026. What do you say? We'll pick another year and we'll do it again.
Absolutely. I thank
Yeah,
you for having me on. I
yeah.
appreciate it. It's always fun to have to do this with you guys. I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, we will do it again sometime. And like, subscribe if you're a fan of any of these artists that we've been talking about today. If you have your thoughts, put them down below, et cetera, et cetera. And have a good night.